मैं तुम्हें रात को फ़ोन करता हूँ। ओके।
अरे बाप रे, कंटिन्यूस होगा तो मैं बाहर ही रहूंगी। अच्छा आइए सर, प्लीज
Please, let's have a cup of tea. Please. I hope we can extend that
थैंक यू।
प्राइम मिनिस्टर झाड़ू लगा रहा था ना, तो उसको तो बाल्टी दी थी, देखा नहीं टीवी में, एकदम पहुंच गया वहाँ बाल्टी लेके, सब मेरा भाई मुझे फोन कर रहे थे। Dr. John is also coming. He's my oldest.
Okay.
कितनी देर में शुरू होगा?
सारे एनेक्सी में चले
इंडिया में प्रकाशन का 1 2 3 4 रैंक किस चीज़ के लिए प्रकाशन किस मतलब साहित्य में
चल रहा है।
So much, so kind of.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. More talking to the unsighted. Our chief guest for today's function has arrived, and I request the dignitaries kindly also take their seats on the dais. Our chief guest for today's function is Dr. Jitendra Singh, Honorable Minister of State for Development of North-Eastern Region, Independent Charge, Minister of State for PMO, Personal Public Grievances and Pensions, Department of Atomic Energy, and I request Dr. Vinayak Prasad from World Health Organization, Geneva, to welcome our Honorable Minister with a bouquet of flowers. I would like to invite Mr. Utpal.
It's a great honor for me as a publisher and great honor for Dr. Jagdish Kaur that she has worked very hard to produce this publication on Arunachal Pradesh, and our honorable minister Dr. Jitendra Singh ji took off. He's a very busy person these days and come to release this publication. I heartily welcome you, sir. Suswagatam. I welcome Shakundla D. Gambling, Power Secretary here in our Delhi. आपका भी बहुत बहुत स्वागत है. Professor A.K. Das, museologist, historian, anthropologist. We welcome you on this occasion of book release function, and you have all taken time to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kaur. To kindly release the book. Thank you, sir. Government of NCT of Delhi, and also with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and Ministry of New and Renewable Energy Government of India in various capacities. She is a domain expert on climate change, intellectual property rights, and hospital sector projects. I would like to invite Mrs. Gameling to introduce the author and say a few words.
Dr. Jitendra Singh, Jagdish Kaur, who is the author of the book that you've just seen, who's been just launched, and Mr. Utpal Kaur, and Professor Das, and Swamiji, of course, with whom I have had a very brief but very interesting conversation. Ministries, the officers of the Ministry of Health, officials from the Arunachal government, some of them whom I can recognize, ladies and gentlemen, friends of Dr. Jagdish Kaur. Incidentally, I had been working in the Ministry of Health, where I was closely associated with Dr. Jagdish Kaur, who had been working like an activist on the tobacco control program, which I used to oversee as a Joint Secretary Health. And I found that often she used to ask me a lot of questions on Arunachal Pradesh. Fortunately, unfortunately, my husband, who belonged to Arunachal Pradesh, also happened to be, studying in Ramakrishna. His entire family studied in the Ramakrishna Mission School. And though I originally hail from Assam, I have lived in the Northeast blessed as much as I've lived in Delhi, and Delhi happens to be my first home, and Northeast is more like a second home. But having been associated with the Northeast through my husband, I found Arunachal Pradesh, which had 50, particularly who studied in the Ramakrishna Mission schools or the Sharda Mission schools. But as far as Hinduism is concerned, we found that Hinduism was also very young in a state like Assam. It must be about 400 years old, whereas Hinduism is a godfather. I mean, it's like the grandfather of all the religions. I think Christianity and Islam came much later. So though you can talk of the Old Testament and go back to that period, but Hinduism with its purity and with its universal sort of ethics, I think is something which all of us have grown up with. And when I did want to find out that what is it there of Hinduism in Arunachal Pradesh, really for the Ramakrishna Mission schools, which has done excellent service in terms of building up the academic qualities and attributes of the students there. But being a student of history, when I did read about the political history of Assam and also about the Shivling, which is sort of mentioned in the Shiv Puranas, which I think Dr. Jagdish Kaur, in her enthusiasm and in her sincerity of finding out the origins, she mentioned to me and she said, please help me preserve this and build the temple. So I did put her on to INTAC, I did put her on to my brother-in-law, I did put her on to my late husband, and we did make an effort, but I don't know how much of it has borne fruit, but yet I feel that there's a lot more that needs to be done. Having said that, it's, I think, a great feat that she has written this book, which are authentic, and she's put together this canvas of Hinduism in the Himalayan state of the Arunachal Pradesh, which I think even the experts who are doing the Indo-China back online sort of studies would find it sort of very convincing to put a theory of how these parts of the country are sort of inherent geographically, socially, ethnically, politically, parts of India must be preserved with its beauty, purity, and sort of the kind of resources that we can harness, not only for people there, for the region there, but for the very little record that she has been able to put together such a wonderful book. I would wish her all the best. I hope she can actually self-actualize in terms of making it a canvas for the entire country to realize about a state which is often definitely the Northeast in terms of human resource, in terms of natural resources, and also in terms of social and economic development. So with these words, I would once again like to wish her all the best and see that the book sees more prosperity in terms of its acceptance, in terms of its wide reading, and in terms of vindicating the inherent sort of historical facts which are not mythical, which have been mentioned in no less a document than the Shiv Puranas. Thank you very much.
The author of the book, Dr. Jagdish Kaur, to kindly introduce her book.
Good evening. Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, Honorable Minister of State for Donor, PMO and many other portfolios which he is holding right now. Mrs. Shakuntala Gamlin, Principal Secretary, Ministry of Power, Government of NCT of Delhi. Professor A.K. Das, Shri Upal Kaur, Swamiji, who has taken all the trouble, is flown from Varanasi to bless me on this occasion. Thank you so much. And my senior colleagues, Additional DG Statistics, Mr. Nair is there. My ex-colleagues, Dr. Salan is there, Dr. Madhuri Sharma is there, and many more people in this hall who are close to me, love me, and they are here today on this occasion. My parents are there, my son is there, Amitoj, colleagues, friends from media. So, as an author, I'm supposed to, read out from my book, which I'm not doing. There are two main questions which people have been asking me about this book when they came to know a specialist, why this topic. And second was, how did I find time? That is very relevant. So I'll try my best to answer both these questions because the hall is dominated by people from medical professional. So I'll just read out a quote from Sri Aurobindo's Foundations of Indian Culture. The greatness of the ideals of the past is a promise of greater ideals for the future. A continual expansion of what stood behind past endeavor and capacity is the one abiding justification of a living culture. In Hindi, I think we used to watch Mahabharata, Purana wala, Sikh hum बीते युगों से नए युग का करे स्वागत. आज श्री महाभारत का. So the topic, why I chose this topic, very unusual topic, like Mrs. Gamlin was trying to explain. She's my old link from Arunachal Pradesh, a very good friend. This book, many of them, they recheck their mails twice and thrice that is it the same Dr. Jagdish which they know, or somebody has hacked their mail and inviting them for release of this book, which is very unusual. So in fact, with you people, I am also surprised that this really has happened. And how this started, it's a long journey. This started in the year 2009 when I happened to visit Arunachal Pradesh, which is there, on the northeastern corner of the country. Like ma'am was saying, they are connected by a chicken neck. So accessibility is also a problem. It's a long journey. And that was a workshop on tobacco control only. And this was in Itanagar, and one of my colleagues who's not here, he was Principal Secretary Health there. And he told me, I was there with my son, that why don't you go and visit a place called Zero, that's around 125 kilometers from here, and because you have a day, so you go there, there is a temple there. So I said, okay, I have time, so I'll go. So we went to that place, Zero, which is at 5,000 feet high from sea level, and very beautiful place, very scenic place in Arunachal Pradesh. And it's not a temple. They said that a Shivling was discovered in the jungle. This is how, and that was the July 2004, 5 years back, when I visited in 2009, and now it's going to be 11 years this July. So we went to that place, and the place, it really had some vibrations, that place. And this Shivling, they say it's the tallest in the world, that's 25 feet high. It's a huge rock. And there were other lingas, and there was a head of Lord Ganesha in the front, then there is this big Shivling, then there is another link which they say it's Goddess Parvati, and then there is a smaller one, Lord Kartikeya. So very interesting place, because I've been to almost all corners of the country and I hadn't seen anything like that. So it was quite mesmerizing, and there they gave me a pamphlet also, which was describing some history of this place, they said. And they said that particular edition of Shiv Puran. So I found it very interesting. I came back and I sent somebody to buy a copy of Shiv Puran for me. I read it, and this was mentioned there. And very interestingly, not only that there was a mention of this Shivling, there was this word Arunachal. This is also mentioned in Shiv Puran. So it was written that that place where this Shivling will be found will be known as Arunachal, and that's so many centuries back. So I stuck there, that thing really stuck me. Then I started looking at other literature. As madam said, there is literature is very scarce, on Arunachal. There's nothing in written before 16th century AD. So they have recorded oral history of the tribes. There are 27 odd tribes which are inhabiting the state now, and they have been intensively studied by the Directorate of Research, historians, scholars. There are many documents, but finding something on the ancient history or even the Middle Ages, so that literature was missing. So I really had to, take help from the people around me who were somehow connected to Arunachal, Assam, Nepal, or historians, and visit many libraries. and asked people to give me something on Arunachal. And while going through the Directorate of Research at Itanagar, their documents, they had undertaken some excavations mid-60s onwards, and mid-60s and last part of the last century and beginning of this 21st century. And there, many of the places which they had excavated had the elements of Hinduism, all elements, be it Shaivism, Shaktism, Vaishnavism, even the Tantric Hinduism. Unfortunately, some of the places got lost. One of the very important place, for example, Tameshwari temple, there they used to perform human sacrifice. It got submerged in the river, it couldn't be preserved. And then there is Parshuram Kund, that place, one of the remotest district of Arunachal Pradesh. So there people have been visiting since centuries, and that has a lot of religious background. And then I could see many places, coming up with these excavations, and even people telling that when they make roads and houses, so many things get discovered. So that, really interested me. And then I worked from that angle and started looking at their background. And the basic concern was initially that this shivling, which is now exposed to all the weather conditions, it rains there for 6 to 7 months, heavy rains. So it's getting now weathered. And because of the seepage, this, it needs protection. So I spoke to all authorities, within my capacity, central government, state government, ASI, religious organizations, Swamiji is there. I think at one time my office, whoever, they were asking everybody who's walking into my office, is there any Arunachal link? So, we were all on this, and we collected funds, sent them over, that at least let there be a protection, not a temple. And then some of my friends, Mr. and Mrs. Kansal are here from the central, where are they?